Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the CLSR, and I'm your host, the counselor. Today, we're going to be talking about personalities. There are various personalities out there. However, we're going to have to narrow it down. We got to narrow it down to where we can focus on those four major personalities because there's a lot going on out there, and I think what's needed now more than ever is communication. Communication needs to be improved. We need to be able to read people better. The different personalities that are out there, um, as diverse as people think they are, they kind of fall into a category. And I'd really like for us to talk about these four main categories, but we are going to discuss a little bit more than those four. But we're just going to make sure we narrow down these personality traits. And as many of you know, there are generally four: the emerald, pearl, and ruby, sapphire. Okay, so those four are the main four. And just talking about these are people that have these personality traits. And I'm very curious when it comes to different personalities, like how we can work with it. So why is it important for us to even know about these different personalities? And I think it's because what we want to do is we want to be able to read people for better communication and better relations, right? We want more sustainable relations, and we want our work environment to improve, our businesses to do well, and our relationships to do well. And for us to have that go on, I think it's better now more than ever to look at these personalities and have a real understanding, such as Pearl. Pearl, those are the type of people that they're like environmentalists. Save the earth. They want to do everything. They want to save the earth, protect the environment, the do-gooders, and they're driven by their cause. Right? These are the people that really care about our existence, what's going on in the world. They can see what's happening, and despite what's going on in our environment, our economy, these are the people who are these are the ones who really care deeply about the world. These are the save the world people, but they can be also the ones that they avoid confrontation from time to time, right? They'll do anything to avoid confrontation, and at times they may even be considered pushovers. People will take advantage of them. Those are the ones that, they get bullied in the playgrounds. They get bullied in the work environment. Sometimes they even get bullied in the house situation. It really depends, but they're so nice that sometimes people take advantage of them. They're very humble people. They have a good understanding of the world, but there is a segment of society that, they'll try to take advantage of that, push these people, and those people are those ones. Now, I'm going to stick to the truth. The truth of the matter is a lot of people say, oh, you know what? All these character traits have a tendency to intertwine. Well, we're going to leave that out today because I think that we need to focus on specific personalities so that number one, better things about yourself and the ones that you're in relationships with and the ones you work with. Just tuning into their personalities is going to be beneficial all the way around. So, understanding that you have a pearl, then even if you're thinking about work, how would that play into the relationship? Well, if you have somebody who's really genuine at work that's trying to do good things, those are the ones that you have to make sure you look at it and say, yes, in business, maybe there is a portion that I definitely have to apply towards that. However, on the other end, I have to make sales. I have to, I have to produce. So I have to have a balance, because you can give out, you can do charity work, all this in a job situation. Those pearl people, right? They could want to definitely put that as part of the agenda, but then there has to be that common sense person. So you have to understand that there's a good balance there when you're dealing with a pearl. So it's not about just identifying these personality traits. It's how to deal, how to relate, right, with these individuals. It's important because once we understand about these different gemstones, and we get a better understanding how we can communicate. And we could also come in a nice supporting way. When you know that they're there to do good intentions, how do you deal with those people? It's great. Hey, I could be the same type of person and I want to hook up with that person. That's just right. That just helps in the relations all the way around. Right? So just understanding those people and understanding yourself, what type of person you are. So if you are a pearl, you may be looking for another pearl. Or we'll be talking about other ones. There's other matches that you can make. But it could be a good match. It's an easier way for you to relate. How do you deal? Well, you deal by looking at these different personality traits and understanding, what, that works for me or it doesn't work for me. So rubies could be on the other end. See, where I was talking earlier about the supportive person that works with the pearl. But the pearl might say, well, you know what, I need somebody who's a little bit more aggressive than me to balance it out, because I am a pushover. I know who I am. So they might want to hook up with a ruby. And see, a person that's ruby red, those are the people that they're domineering. They have a dominating attitude. They love to be in control. They love to take charge. They have very strong opinions. They don't show very much doubt at all. And a lot of them are big dreamers. And you can't say they don't work. They work hard. They love to lead. They love to be the center of the attention. They love life for sure, but that go-getter spirit in them, it can be astronomical when you understand that you're dealing with that personality type. See, when you deal with those personality types, let's say in the work environment, you have to understand if you have a handful of groups that are working for your organization, and then you have some underlings or ones that are not as senior who are very energetic, they're taking charge, and they need to be heard and seen, then you take that into consideration. You look for those ones that like to do that. That just makes your business better when you take in charge, And in a relationship, it could transfer there as well. If you want a ruby in a relationship, you might be a pearl where, you're more soft-spoken, avoid confrontation, and then you need a ruby in your life, like someone who, male, female, transgender, whatever, someone that's going to be that rock for you, that's going to take control and charge and make you feel safe and secure. That's a balance for you. And see, that's how you can look at it. But then there's also that other element, too, of the sapphire. And the sapphire, very energetic people. They're life of the party, right? Love to party. They're motivated by action and fun. They have a happy desire to be around people. They love people. Love that social communication. They're happy. They're positive, friendly. They love to horse around. And very welcoming people, too, right? They're just those type of people that, love to get together, love to have fun. And, the thing about them as well is that sometimes, though, they can be a little bit careless and, a little bit sloppy, a little bit messy, They're not really highly organized individuals per se, They lack a little bit of structure, but they can be a little bit messy. And because they're always turning over this energy, and I don't think they go in reverse to slow down to understand some of these little things mean things, but they can be a little bit messy, that sapphire. And then if you also want to do more balancing, and you got to think about individuals who may think more common sense wise. These are people who are analyzers. They're the real thinkers. The number crunchers, they say. These guys are the ones that are very picky. Picky in your workplace, picky in your relationship. They pay attention to every little details. And they ask questions, and they love to do some planning, scheduling, organizing for organizations. Those are the emerald. Those are those ones that are the cross the T and dot the I people. Those are people, you could be one of those people, that you have to have everything succinct. You got to have things planned out, organized, and that's what you depend on. These are the people that will not take bull. They want people who are going to talk to them and communicate with them on a level where they're not they can explain exactly where they're coming from. They do not accept people who are just talking crap. They need to see the numbers. They need some detail. They need some mapping. They need to be shown. That's security and safety. That's everything for them. But that's what that gem is all about, the emerald. So you have the pearl, the ruby, sapphire, and the emerald. And those are personalities that how you interact with them or how you analyze them makes a big difference. And just having this understand is very key to dealing with personalities. Now, if you think about those four, I have to talk about a couple more. And I find the blue topaz, which beautiful blue, sky blue. If you're a person who is similar or has characteristics or character traits that are similar to the blue topaz, then you are more of a calm person. You reflect. You know what I mean. You attract people because you have this nature. It's almost like people that just talk to you. You have an open door approach, peacefulness about yourself. It's like your nature is peaceful. And people like that. They feel more calm around you, relaxed. Think of just like a cool ice type person where you feel so comfortable. It's almost like family. And you're dealing with them and there's no pressure and everything's at ease. And you could really tell this person anything, right? So this type of person has a soothing energy and strong communication skills, and which are valued, and they're needed, and they use them, and see, they're rewarded when they use them. Other people want to be around them. That's why the blue topaz is one of my favorite gemstones. Diamond. See, everyone loves a diamond, and you wonder how that came to be the favorite gemstone. People who are diamond and have that diamond character, those are people who are determined. They're proud. They stand tall. They're strong individuals. And they have strength, and they give strength. Right? And they put hope out there. They give hope where there is no hope. They tough because some of the situations that they find themselves in, they have to be tough. And sometimes you have to be fearless and bold. And realize that you're going to be going through some challenges. But you handle it. You might be somewhat hesitant, but you handle it. And through handling things, it brings you strength. And that's why diamond is one of the toughest gems in the world. Some of the most beautiful and durable. But you got to be careful when you're dealing with the diamond. Because if you both are diamonds, you got to watch it. Because that's when you have to think about balance. Balancing in those relationships. Are you going to be a hard person to get along with? Are you going to have difficulty in your relationships if there's two diamonds and, they're both strong and they're not giving in and they're bumping heads and, you got all these aspirations and understandings. However, it's a challenge. It's a struggle. Wouldn't you want to know these things before you get deeply involved in this relationship? Because you might ask yourself, why am I always bumping heads with this individual? Why are things so hard? And some people try to give excuses for it, but the truth is, these are the personalities. Have we ever really taken stock of the personalities that we're dealing with, especially in our relationships? No, we take them usually at face value. We don't really take time to look at which one could fall into what, if this one's a class clown, if they're a sapphire and they're motivated by fun, okay, I can take it lightly, but then you have to look at it. Okay, but even though they're the class clown and I recognize that might not be enough in the workplace. See, because if you become the class clown in the workplace, what happens? The first thing that happens is people don't take you seriously. See, this is why you need to know. This is why the counselor is telling you need to know these different personalities. Because understanding that You have somebody who's not being taken seriously, they're not going to be followed. So if you have them in a leadership position, they're going to get more problems. You have to at least acknowledge that, okay, this is their personality type. Maybe I can impart this upon them and tell them, look, you're in this position. This is what the expert. You knowing that is going to help you in your organization and your relationship. Right? Think about that. Could be your relationship in your actual relationship. You could be a husband and wife and you got kids, and then you got to tell your partner, look, they're not going to take you seriously if you're joking, so let's be serious when we're dealing with them and setting down these rules and guidelines. Right? There's different ways to bounce off. So I just appreciate all these different stones that we have. They're so beautiful. All these types of gems. We're so lucky if we can identify and actually analyze and, pay attention to people who have it. If we can pick it out in people, it's really going to do wonders. But the thing is, you have to be looking for it. You have to be looking. Right? You have to understand, if you're a pearl personality, you know what I mean? If you're even drawn to a pearl personality, you're one of those dignified spiritual people. You have a rich sense of pride, but your heart is soft and sweet and humble. This pearl, pearls, it's like nature. It represents transformation and endurance. Pearls are made of pressure, right? Applied pressure through time, which was a grain of sand. Think of the beauty that came out of a grain of sand. Something that has molded through time and come out so beautiful. But see, that alone tells you have to have patience. You have to have a patience inside of you to deal with a person who's pearl. And let that spiritual person come out in you. It is essential. When you're dealing even with the rubies. If you're drawn to the rubies, you have to be a passionate, intense, and bursting with life person. You're one of those ones that you get attention everywhere you go. And you do influence other people. You give people strength and energy. You give them a sense of purpose in their lives. You understand that you become weaker if you don't have a positive attitude. You never give up. You believe that the strength is in you, and you will win. You have to. It's part of who you are. You have that determination, that drive to succeed. So you try at all costs to win. And you compete. And sometimes to your own demise, you get caught up and you focus only on competing. But it's in you, so you compete. Another beautiful gemstone is aquamarine. Individuals who are youthful and brave. They have a spirit and adventure about themselves. They're soulful individuals. Aquamarine, meaning water of the sea. It was viewed as treasure for the mermaids. Such a beautiful color. If you feel that you might not be feeling yourself, you might be feeling down, people are optimistic. They believe in the future, so it comes them to satisfaction. Another attractive stone. Personalities, sensuous personalities, individuals who are passionate, sharp, they have instinct, they believe in their success, the powerful, beautiful aura that they exude. They're rare personalities. just consider themselves in tune, they say, with the other side of the world. Spiritual individuals. They have these psychic dreams and explorations. However, they have these powers, they say, that enable them to see things. And I guess maybe that's where the term deja vu comes from. These people, that these personalities are very spiritual individuals, and they feel that, this spirituality has actually given them some special powers. And I don't know. I mean, it's so weird to say no. You can't really say no to this understanding, because you know what? There are people out there that use very spiritual driven people for, solving cases, working in business. People refer to them. So, I mean, they have to get some validity. But it's a beautiful stone. It's like a beautiful stone. Another beautiful stone is a citrine. Bubbly, creative individuals who are very spiritual, who really have an appreciation for life. They're warm, they're exciting. They could be like your best friend, and they could be total strangers, but they're always kind. They're always nice to you. Like even when you have your dark moments, these are people that just bring you up. They seem to be there for you. They kind of shine a light in your life. Right? And it's almost like, this beautiful stone, and citrine, it's a French word. It means lemon, because the colors are just as bright as a lemon. Beautiful, it's gold, it's yellow. It's like freshness, It's like a stone that's used to transform negativity right into positivity. It just changes your whole mindset. It's like having an upbeat, energetic personality within you. It's like a light shining inside you. It's just such a beautiful stone. And the people who have those characteristics, they are energetic and lovely individuals. However, now that we've learned a little bit about the gemstones, let's talk about the major personality traits that we need to be aware of. We need to understand that when we go for positions, or we're doing business plans, we need to know these personality traits that individuals will be looking for, which ones we possess that could benefit us, just understanding that. And overall, better understanding of ourselves, just being familiar, because we have to be familiar with at least the 5 major personality traits, which are openness, conscientiousness, extroversion, introversion, agreeableness, and natural reaction. So let me list them again. Number 1, openness. That's a personality trait. We're going to talk about this one. Conscientiousness, right? That's number 2. Number 3, we're going to talk about extroversion and introversion. And number 4, agreeableness. And number 5, natural reactions. It's just so important that we understand that we have to have a better understanding of a personality, and we have to understand how these personality traits impact our lives, from openness, conscientiousness, extroversion, introversion, agreeableness, and natural reactions. See, conscientiousness is simply somebody who's very thorough in their dealings. Those that are cross the T and dot the I people, they believe in doing it right. Do not skip any corners. And once you do it, you do 100%, or you don't do it at all. Is that you? Is that type of person? Are you very industrious? Right? You diligent, hard-working individual that believes totally in order. But then there's a subset of this individual, this person who strives for achievement. They're competent, very competent individuals. And they have a self-discipline about themselves. They're deliberate in their thinking, duty-bound for sure, duty bound, and they have to, no matter order, there has to be order. These are conscientious individuals, and that's a personality trait that some of you may be that, or know someone who falls in those categories. But that one is a big one, conscientiousness. And you see those people who do fall under that personality trait. Usually they're in like militaries or deeply involved in some religious or some organizations. Very dutiful individuals. And on the other hand, you have those people who are very agreeable. So they have this agreeableness about themselves. Those are individuals who are very passionate. They have compassion for others. They're very passionate within a sense of politeness about them. It's just their demeanor. Very, very, very. Those are ones at your workplace you can depend on. Into some situations where you need to be covered, whether you're going out taking care of some business or not. Those are individuals with those personality traits that are very modest, very compliant, trustworthy, altruistic, and they're tender-minded. It shows. And so these are people that they think. Values that they stick with. Very compassionate individuals. So, which overall is agreeableness. And you could be that individual. That could be part of your personality. On the opposite end of the spectrum, there'll be some neuroticism. Individuals who are somewhat neurotic, volatile, but then there could be times when they're withdrawal. They have these two sides to them. It could be very volatile, and then at times they could withdraw. And that scares some people. However, if you understand that about a person, it doesn't scare. Once you understand their personality, it doesn't bother you. But to someone from the outside, seeing the way they move and how they behave, you might think differently. But neurotic, right? Anger, hostility, impulsive, anxious, very anxious individuals. Some often getting into depression. Very self-conscious, vulnerable individuals. So if you have that person in your life, or you feel you could fall under that category, being somewhat neurotic, and there's people that say, oh, you know what, you gotta excuse me, I'm a little bit neurotic. And it could take people off guard because they're like, what are you talking about? But at the same time, these people might know themselves better than anybody. They're just giving you a little heads up. Don't take them personal. They understand who they are. They're just laying it out straight. But that's the third, right? Personality trait, major. And see, these are people that are often, it appears that they're understood, but they're often misunderstood because people don't understand this about them. The different subsets that they go through. There's different feelings and behaviors that they exhibit. Once you don't understand that about a person, then you just, a lot of times people just judge it and write it off or dismiss it. And that's why it's important that we talk about the different personality traits. But then there's those people who are, have this openness in them. Aesthetic openness and intellect. And these are ones that come with all these different ideas, and they actually take action on some of these ideas. And they like to indulge a little bit of fantasy. They're very emotional people, very feeling individuals, which have values. These ones have values, and they have an intellect with them. And they have a certain openness. And I can see those are people that, you feel comfortable, you can go to. You might not hang around all the time, but they just have this thing that's almost like an open door policy, as I mentioned earlier. It's important. It's something that if you have it, you cherish it. And if you're that individual, you're being cherished and respected, and you draw people towards you. And then I think of extroversion. People who are extroverted. A lot of them are very assertive. They have an enthusiasm about them, right? And very positive, very upbeat people. They could be warm, They're just seeking attention, though. They're attention seekers, in a nutshell. They love to be involved in things. They have an assertive, they're gregarious individuals. But they do have enthusiasm, right? However, they're a little bit assertive. And depending on if you're an extrovert or an introvert, or you consider yourself, it could be a threat or not to you. It could be just something different. However, these are the 5 major personality traits that need to be considered. And the subsets as well. Because as you see, in those areas, which area would you fall in? Or your partner? Are you the conscientious individual? The ones who are very thorough? And if sometimes it could get to the point where you're so thorough that if things aren't done the way you want them done, it could turn into a negative situation. But generally, conscientious people, they have some self-discipline. But that's something. Agreeable. People who have an agreeableness about themselves. These are polite people and compassionate people. Ones that you can trust. You know if you're that individual. Can people come to you? Can they trust you? Have you been told that you're one of those ones you can't be trusted? Then you just don't. One of the most obvious sometimes is the neurotic individual. However, they're very misunderstood because they are moving. They're very energetic, but they sometimes, they're impulsive, and it makes them somewhat vulnerable, right? People judge, and they can get into that anger and that hostility and the feeling misunderstood state, right? And it can turn into a depression. And it can even get deeper than that. So understanding people who are like that, then how would I take it? I would take it, these are people that are going to need support and someone to understand them and tell them, okay, I understand, I'm going to work with you. I have a general understanding of where I'm going with this relationship, as far as support, what I can do to support, for sure. I have a better understanding because I understand that this is what you're about. And that's just insight. Understanding yourself is good. I think I want to talk a little bit about the introvert-extrovert personality. I find that interesting. I think it's underrated. People don't talk about or consider people who may be introverted or extroverted. However, we're going to talk about ambivert. And many people don't know about ambivert. There's introvert, extrovert, and ambivert. And once you get an understanding of these personalities, it's easy for you to see which you may be, which category do you fall into. Are you an introvert? Are you someone that directs all your energy inwards? You think and feel and act in ways that suggest you're the prime motivating factor or the determinant in the situation. Or are you an extrovert? You direct your attention and your interests outwards to the surrounding environment. So you think and you feel and act in relation to external factors. Which are you? Like, for example, if you're in a social event and, Are you the type of person that likes to socialize? Are you a social butterfly? Do you get excited by it? Or on the other hand, are you an introvert? Where you find that being in large crowds and around a social situation may draw a lot of your self energy. It just could be tiring for you. It could wear you out. So you need, you need to take it in doses. You need to compensate. Once your energy's down, you need to take some time, possibly time alone, just to pull yourself back together. Understanding this is important. Your energy. We have psychic energy. And libido is something we have to consider. And I don't want to get libido confused with Freud's theory of libido, which was sexual, psychic, and energy. It's based on sexual gratification. No, that's not the libido I'm talking about. Jung. What he was a theorist that said that libido to him was motivational to a range of behaviors, not just sex. So there was a lot of reasons why people were motivated. It wasn't specifically just sex, as Freud had said. So Jung had a whole different theory, and that's basically about the motivation. It's not just sexually oriented. People are motivated by other things other than sex. So simply put, are you an extrovert? Are you one of those people that, like those social situations? That's just your speed. You love it. However, you don't like much of the planning that's involved in it, the details. You might have the confidence to be in those environments, but it's generally not your setup. You're not usually that type. You're not usually a detailed or planning individual. Whereas an introverted person is going to be more laid back, more thought thinking, less social, inclined. To be in those social situations. You might be that person that just likes to be, less social, less in front of people, seeking that energy. That could be you. I mean, when you think about it, this introvert, extrovert, this is kind of like a spectrum. It's like, think of it like being on a scale. Like in reality, a spectrum provides a scale against which we can more accurately determine just where sometimes we fall in these terms, specific to these behaviors, right? And we have to think about how, if we're introverts, that's going to impact others, or extrovert, how that's going to impact others. And you could give yourself a quick personality test just by knowing what type of person you are, what you like, and what you do on a regular. It could be multifaceted, such as ambivert, which is the middle. See, on one spectrum, you might have an introvert. On the opposite end of the spectrum, you might have an extrovert. But right in the middle, you have an ambivert. This person falls in the middle of introvert and extrovert. And we'll talk about that a little bit later. But what's really the difference between introvert and extrovert? Well, people who are introverts, they recharge by spending time alone. These are people who love to spend time alone. People who either like to read on their own. They don't always want people around them. They're the type of people that enjoy peace and quiet. They love their silent activities. They love meditating, a little bit of yoga, a little bit of free time to themselves is always welcome in their world. However, if you're an extrovert, you recharge by socializing. You like to get out. You know those people. See, this is why it's important to know about the introvert-extrovert, because let's think about even how it plays out in a relationship. If you didn't really think about what type of person you're, now you're going to think about it. So if you're in a relationship and you're an introvert and you have an extrovert, when you think about that, that really has an impact on some of the decisions that are being made in that relationship. Right? For example, if you have a partner that likes to go out all the time, right? You could have one of those partners that, hey, every weekend they want to go out, they want to hit the bars, they want to hit the club, they got to be going somewhere, they always got to be on the move. And then you could have those other partners that they just like to have some quiet time. They worked all week. They appreciate their quiet time. It's part of the routine. They love spending time alone. They don't really always want guests over, right? Whereas the extrovert might want to have guests all the time in the house. These introverts might find that a problem. And see, if the extrovert doesn't recognize this, they're going to take offense to it. Oh, well, you never like having people over, you know. So this is where understanding. So when it comes to decision making, introverts, they reflect before making their decisions. Like, they really like to process inside their head. They process. See, and I think that has something to do with that time alone, or that quiet time, or that processing time. That plays such a big part. Whereas an extrovert, they make decisions quickly. They just go right at it. They just make those decisions. They like to get it over with. Don't like to drag it out. Have a tendency to make snap decisions. Well, whereas your introverts are listening. Those are the listeners. Those are the ones who, they're not just focused on just their attention. They're listening to you. They're empathetic. So they listen a little bit more than the extroverts. The extroverts are very energetic. They like to speak. They like to be heard. And it's a part of who they are. And you know what? Some people are in a relationship, that's cool with them. But the introverts always have introspection. These are individuals who are doing the self-analyzing, self-evaluation. Before they even make decisions, they really think about it. Do that self-examination, self-observing. That's introspective. That's really some cognitive processing. Whereas the extrovert, they're outgoing. However, they're easily distracted. Action-oriented, but easily distracted. Whereas the introverts, they're self-aware. They have a self-awareness about them. And as I said, they do think. They take time to think before acting. But they also learn through observation. See, these are traits that you can pick up too. You can transfer. However, it's important to know that the introverts, they learn through observation. And it's not that they're not sociable. It's just introverts are more sociable with people that they know. Whereas extroverts, they're gregarious and expressive. They could be really good communicators, right? Because they practice. They're practicing their craft all the time. However, they enjoy being the center of attention. And if you're in a relationship, and you know what? It's not to say that an introvert and an extrovert can't balance themselves out. They can. They just have to understand their roles. And like, say, for example, I could be an introvert and then I got to transfer in this environment to an extrovert, right? I can do that. See, this is just understanding this. Just understanding how to manipulate and translate and transfer these skills over is essential in relations, period. But they can be beneficial in all environments. Just your ability to be social in social situations. If you're an introvert, hey, settle in that if that's good. But if you would like to be, and a lot of people are, they're in one state and they want to be a little bit different in different environments. Think about it. Someone who's an introvert, but they might have a group of friends and they want to be more of an extrovert when they come together. They want to get more involved. Well, you can take that cognitive approach. That's something that you could do. So in social situations, you know what I mean? That introvert can be more of a extrovert. And maybe not extrovert, ambivert, fall in the middle, where they choose that environment where they can be more social or communicative, because all the while they know and understand who they normally are in certain environments. But this environment, they're ready for a change. Just understanding the different social situations that you could be in. But just be aware so that you're sensitive to it. Like, for example, if you're an extrovert and you have a partner that's an introvert, and you see that they're not talking as much, then you try to engage them in, or you get into conflict with them because you feel that they're not participating as much, and you don't understand why, or you're placing the blame that there's something wrong with them. They're not falling for what you normally do, right? They're not engaging as much. Well, I think the best thing to do is really talk to them about it privately and just discuss, like, yeah, and they'll tell you, and you'll know by their tone. Because there's people out there that'll tell you based on their tone. Even if you ask them, they might not. You might think that they're going to tell you what you want to hear. In many cases, they will. But usually, if they're agitated, their tone will show different, right? Like, oh, well, that's just you. You like to get everyone's attention. Then okay, this person's bitter. You know what I mean? This person's bad at me. I got to go back to my extrovert ways because they're trying to come out of the introvert into the extrovert, and that might be my zone. Well, I'm not trying to encourage that competition. I'm just saying, though. Well, just be mindful of it and be respectful of it, right? Some days an extrovert can sit back and let that partner take over. Don't always have to be the center of attention. But, hey, some extroverts try to. That's what they're all about. They're more confident too, though. And they're a lot more accurate when interpreting the meaning of nonverbal communication than introverts. It's surprising, even though introverts do a lot of observing, I think all the interactions that extroverts have, they get to learn their craft. They get to read visuals, like how to approach people or what's going on, the nonverbal cues, like how somebody's looking or reacting. That you think is weak in an extrovert because they're moving around all the time, communicating, but they're learning a lot too. I mean, introverts can see in that, but still, believe it or not, according to the research, it's extroverts really can pick up that nonverbal communication very well. They can read very, very well. Now, when it comes to decision making, as I mentioned, the introverts, they're more likely to use early information to form judgments and make some decisions, rather than the extroverts in that same environment, you know. In pressured situations, the introverts, they can pick up quick and deal with those situations. And that's what's important to understand. They can pick up quick, but they take a little bit of time. But in pressured situations, they often make some of the best decisions because they're used to processing and thinking and taking time before they actually make a decision. But however, the analyzing of communication, it's higher for extroverts. Now, this applies in different environments. Keep that in mind. Like, extroverts are considered more positive. They hold more positive evaluations in life, like, in general. And they have extroverts are positive even in their work. They appreciate their careers. Their career satisfying. They're more likely to take action and to remedy unsatisfactory work environments. These people will be proactive, especially when they like their work environments. So extroverts, not just attention in the social scenes, it could be active individuals in the workplace. Extroverts, you see them. It takes some strength. It takes some power too. Like if you're working in a union environment and you need somebody to step up to be a union rep, that person's probably going to be an extrovert because they're going to have questions, they're going to be challenged, so it takes some strength in the extrovert. So like I said, you can go from being an introvert, apply for the job, being an extrovert, just knowing about what their position requires. So many different ways of understanding these personality traits. It's a beautiful thing just to get a basic understanding of how you can use them. See, that psychological game is a great game. It's an interesting, fulfillful, challenging game of life. How to use, right, different personalities and apply them in different environments to make life better for all involved. Now think about these introvert, extrovert explanations in regards to maybe your children. See, some important things to keep in mind. Interesting things to consider. Like introverts are more likely to locate the real me. And the real me is an understanding, a true essence of who they really are through the internet, right? So it makes sense where As extroverts, they're more inclined to find out who they are and self-identify through social interactions, like the traditional methods. The extroverts, but the introverts, like, if you think about it, so if you have a child that's like more of an introvert, where are they finding out who they are? A lot of times they're trying to envision that extroverted self, but how they find out who their true self is they go through the internet, trying to find, and some are trying to find people, some are trying to find products, some are trying to purchase things that they can find out, oh, when I buy this this is a part of me, this is who I like. Or if I'm talking to this person's, they're trying to find the essence of themselves. And if they're looking on the internet, and if they want to find an essence of themselves and they actually believe that they found it, things could really get ugly. And you've seen what happens with a lot of young people, for example, who are in that introverted position. See, like, when you really think about it, like, that sounds terrible that, oh yeah, their introverts are going online to really find a part of themselves, really, more than extroverts, per se. However, that's not as terrible as someone not being able to identify in any sort of way. See, whether it's a traditional or social scene, or whether it's the internet or not. See, this is where we fall down, when we have those individuals that don't know, that or can't express their real me in any form, or can't attach themselves to anyone. Those are the ones that really end up with serious psychological issues and deficiencies and disorders. Those are the ones that have the real challenges, because they cannot meet that real me. They suffer. And it's basically, they get a warped sense of self, unfortunately, when they can't connect in some way. There are some differences that we should know between introverts and extroverts. I mean, there are some real differences that we need to consider, such as when it comes to introverts, they're more likely to participate in solitary leisure activities, things that are like more personal health related, for maybe nature walks, or things that improve their outlook. Whereas extroverts are more action oriented. They like to go on activities, whether it's sports or what have you. It's for the enjoyment. However, it's important that I clarify. So which are you? Are you the extroverted personality type? Are you the one who is outgoing? You're curious, action-oriented individual who's playful at times, tactful but flexible, and definitely enthusiastic. You can be efficient in your dealings. You're outgoing, and people do depend on you. And of course, through your social interactions, you're friendly, outgoing, even helpful at times, and organized as well to a certain degree. Spontaneous at times, but always optimistic. You have an inventive side to yourself, very strategic, versatile, caring too, diplomatic, idealistic, and strategic in your thinking. Always outgoing and ambitious. That is you, the extrovert. However, are you an introverted individual? Someone who is considered responsible, realistic, reserved, however, quite analytical at times. People consider you warm and helpful to others. More often than not, very logical in your thinking, yet independent, quite reserved, sensitive, observant, and you're nurturing. Flexible, somewhat flexible, but very realistic. You have a compassion, and you're a very organized individual who has values, personal growth is essential to you. You're logical, precise, and imaginative. So, how could this impact our relationship? One being an introvert and the other an extrovert. Well, it does play a very important part, especially when it comes to communication. It could be very problematic, especially with any misunderstanding. An introvert, for example, a person in a relationship that had a long day at work. And if you're an introvert, you might find that any of that interaction that you might have with your partner could be exhausting. So you prefer to be spending some time alone. You might need some quiet time after having a long day at work. So you don't want to spend it with that partner right away. You might need to chill. You might need some rest, some relaxation. While the other extrovert might not feel the same. They might be energized. They might be anticipating and waiting, just waiting to socialize. They haven't really communicated with somebody that they cared about all day. So they've been at work socializing. However, the one person that they want to talk to could be on the outs. They could be tired and they don't want to be bothered. You could both be outgoing and sociable. However, at that particular time, it's not working and there's a communication breakdown. And it could be hard to see that, and it could be problematic. Where extroverts get their energy and their stimulus, it's, they love to talk. And that could be very difficult for an introvert to understand. So rather than talking about things, introverts value their time. They don't want to waste their time getting into too much talk and carrying on and overdoing it or too much processing the thoughts. They think that some of the extroverts are going in too deep, seeking too much attention, and then they become standoffish. It's considered like a threat to the introvert, that a extrovert could be like loud and overwhelming, exuding all that energy, and it could be just a shutdown point for an introvert. So you have to consider, even in the workplace, the busy environment, it requires maybe a very energetic person, but this might, deplete the energy of an introvert. Extroverts can handle, they can deal with the hustle and bustle of that environment, but it might not be true for the introverts. It could be a challenge for some of them. So even when you're dealing with conflict, extroverts, how they approach it is different. Introverts are less assertive, less willing to compete. They want to avoid conflict altogether. However, the extroverts, they have a tendency to confront. They get into conflict. They deal with things head on. And they take that integrative and assertive approach, which could shut down the introvert. It can seem that there's no balance between an introvert and extrovert. However, that's not true. But we do need to understand the main reason for conflict between the two is basically a lack of understanding from each side. Now, there are personality traits that tend to get us into trouble. So, think about if you're a closed-minded person, then you always have to think that you're right on every issue. And most of the time, you might be on track. You might even actually be right in many situations. You're intelligent for sure, and your experience might demonstrate that. However, you're not interested in taking other opinions or considering others, what they feel or think, because you're convinced your way's the best. That's a personality trait that gets people in a lot of trouble. It causes a lot of issues when you're not as open-minded as you need to be. And you gotta also be careful for those people who are arrogant. Can we look at this? Arrogant. There are arrogant individuals out there. You are one of those people who believe that the way to get things done is your way. It's the best way, and you know everything about everything. And as good as you can be, you do what you want to do, and you're actually arrogant about that. You could even be incredibly standoffish. Talking about, like constantly talking about everything you do. And there are times when you're going to push people around. And people aren't going to want to deal with that attitude or that behavior. Nobody's going to want to be around somebody who's arrogant. You got to switch it up. You got to stop showing off. You got to compliment your friends. You got to work on those things. Mind yourself. You know, you're a better person than that. And are you a moody individual? Are you a person that you go through your moods, but to others it seems like you're coming off a little bit raw, edgy, sort of mean? You know, because we do have a tendency to deal with fluctuations in our moods, and it can change. You know, you could be in a bad mood. You know, your moods can change incredibly quickly. And it doesn't even have to do with the person that you're dealing with. Just having those other people around you. And you just react. And you're mean to them. And they say that. Oh, you're just being mean. You go through those mood things. You don't mean to come off as rude, but you're just simply in a bad mood. It's just weird how our mind works. Sometimes people wake up in a bad mood. But it is your responsibility to figure out how to control your emotions and not how to take it out on other people. You have to find yourself when you're in a mood. You can't let it get the best of you. You got to change it. You got to change your tone. It's got to be more positive, so people can be wanting to even be around you. You have to look inside that personal power from within to control your emotions through most situations. Like, there are people who have tempers, short temper. Do you have a short temper? Are you able to acknowledge that, you know, when you're not feeling as intelligent as the rest of the world may do or feel? Are you impacted by that? Does that annoy you? Can you stand differing opinions? Do you snap at people if they say something that, you know, appears to tick you off? Something that you believe in that they don't believe in and they're challenging. And next thing you know, you're confronting them. It usually doesn't happen. It's just a difference of opinion, but you have a small temper. That's going to impact things. You have to try to keep an open mind. Okay? How you're operating, where you're going, what you're doing. I mean, how honest are you with yourself? Really? Because a lot of people are hypocritical. Are you hypocritical? Do you always have to have that opinion on absolutely everything? Do you know those friends who aren't scared to tell people? Let them know. You've always got to be up in someone's face, however you're around. Because people get around you and see one moment you're in the mood, the next day you move. That point that you were defending, it changes. The next day you're in a totally different mood. But you are passionate, especially things that you love. And you have people around you. However, you're quick to give advice to friends and family. But then, once you give them advice on what they should do, and then a week later you done changed up completely, you know, and go against totally what you said the week before. You're like a hypocrite and nobody can depend on you. You're changing, and it could be just changed upon time or just your mood. But you'll say one thing and there's no validity because you don't stick to it, because you change and switch up. Are you that type of person? Like, we totally understand that your opinions and desires, they change each day. But the people around you, theirs don't. So when you're not sticking to it like most people do, you become considered a hypocrite. And you know those people. But then the one thing that really gets to me is when you have those people, I don't know what it is, they just get under your skin. These people have no filter, you know? Like, we do admire people that will speak the truth and they're not afraid to speak up on situations, especially situations that they believe in. But these people can lack a filter. You know what I mean? They're not scared to tell anybody exactly what they think of them. And it might at first seem like it comes off as confident, but then shortly after, there's people that they begin to realize that, you know, you just don't think before you speak. And that can land you in a situation. There are those people, on the other hand, who they're insecure. And see, when they're trying to get, let's say, into a new setting, a new group, they're trying too hard. And you see them trying too hard. They're overdoing it to get that attention because they want people to like them. So they're applying extra effort and energy. And however, they come off as very annoying. It just demonstrates their deep insecurities. You know, and what you need to do is build that confidence, you know, and love for yourself. You have to really care about yourself. You got to stop worrying and stop obsessing over what other people think of you. You have to get over it. It's one of the hardest things for people to do. They obsess over what people think and they try too hard. And next thing you know, people get agitated. And it actually pushes them away rather than... You end up getting the opposite effect, which was not intentional, but that's where you find yourself. And are you a manipulator? Are you manipulating those around you intentionally? Yes, you're smart. You have the mental capacity. But are you manipulating? And is it getting out of control, out of hand? Trying to find an edge over someone. You have your own agenda. And you're just trying to figure out how to use people and manipulate people around you to get what you want. You're dedicated. And you have a gift. You know how to communicate. You know how to get your way. It's helped you so many times when you've been in trouble. You've used that wit. But see, now you're starting to get caught up in your lies. And you're telling others. And you're trying to achieve your desire. So you manipulate. So instead, what you need to do is you need to be focused on achieving anything you desire by putting in the work, not by having other people or manipulating other people into doing work for you. You got to keep up. You got to start to understand that you do have the mental capacity and inner strength to do positive things instead of manipulating. And one of the things that I worry about, people who are not so true to themselves and to others. Those ones that can be less than honest. You could be dependent on them. However, you know, they're using their mental power to get what they want. It's even a form of manipulation. Always looking for the shortcuts through the system. Those are those people that, I don't know, and that is so deep because it could go for years and years and years where people, they don't know how to fly straight. There's something about, and I think that's a whole topic in itself, where people are using their little lies, you know, to get through life, and they don't change, they don't grow as individuals, and they actually carry this behavior up until their, you know, 30s even. Sometimes even beyond. where they're never totally, you know what I mean? They're a little sneaky. They're always sly, trying to get what they want, you know, to make their situation better or give them the advantage. You know, they're just losing sight of what truly matters, and they just want to take the easy route in life. You know what I mean? That's what they do, and it becomes obvious. And it's usually there are serious consequences. It's like ends up being a negative lifestyle, very negative. You start to think negatively eventually, trying to cut all these corners. But it's never too late to change and turn this thing around. But if you have that mentality, you have to learn to switch it off, because you have to give yourself a chance. Show yourself that you're competent enough to work hard and get what you want instead of relying on this trait. Right? These less than honest traits. And see, sometimes it becomes a part of a relationship where it destroys the relationship completely. Because a person is less than honest. And what about those people who are snobs? You see those people walking, you can know this person, right? And they just come off as major snobs. They want things done their way. You know what I mean? And they have high ideals which expect to be met. They know how to get certain things done, but there's nothing stopping these people from making everything exactly the way they want them. And when it comes to those individuals around them, right, they aren't interested in being like them. They want to separate themselves. So they're snobbish. You can see them in a mall, walk up to them, and they'll just keep walking. It depends who they're with. Right? But if you're a snob and you're like that for whatever reason, think about it. You have this desire to be perfect. And if people around you don't fit into that formula, you get agitated. You don't know how to handle. You become snobbish. And people get tired of it. You need to keep your desires to yourself and make sure you don't label yourself as being too good for other people. People can read this, and it's disturbing to a lot of people, and then people end up alone a lot because they become snobbish, and they end up getting the exact opposite of what their goal was, which is usually separation. And they want separation, and they think it's going to be good for them, but in the end, it's not. And that word lazy, a lot of people are using the word lazy. Laziness. And they're saying, don't ever use the word laziness. Don't use it. It's negative. People don't really want to hear it. However, there are things that we can categorize as lazy. You're like on a different level. You have no desire to get things done. And you would much rather relax instead of getting things done and working hard like the rest of us. You know there's family members in your household that are like that. They're lazy, and you got to call it for what you see, because they're not doing their fair share. And they know they want to sit around, and they do that. And you know what? As soon as you say something about it, they get their backs up, and they make life hell. Right? And it's hard to accept it. Their laziness. It's getting the better of you. And it's overpowering your relationship. And becoming intolerable. And it's impacting your relationship because it's lazy attitude. And you don't end up delivering anything that you promise. You make promises and you don't keep them. You're doing the bare minimum. Someone's always got to ask you to do something. Simply put, there's no self-discipline. That's what needs to happen. It's time that if you got this laziness streak, you got to make some changes before it takes a toll. And you got to look at why you are in this state. Why does it take you forever to do the basic things? Why are you challenging? Why are you ignoring? Why do you have this fear? Why are you stuck in this comfort when things have to get done? Why are you shrugging your responsibility? Is it possible that you can just care less about anything, any priorities? People say, why do I have to? I don't feel like it, I'm not going to. You're not going to make it. But you have to see, if you're that person, you're not contributing. That's going to impact your relationship, because I believe relationships got to have some sort of balance somewhere. And if you're not toeing your end, oh no, that will not do. That'll mess up your relationship. It'll mess up your work relationship too. If you're not taking care of business the way you're supposed to, meeting your expectations, people at work, no, they're not going to have it. They're going to be complaining. If you're not holding your share, your lion's share, no, never mind that. You got to do your part. You got to understand that these are things that they're non-negotiable. And what about those people who are overly jealous? What about those people? Like, we all understand a little jealousy sometimes, where the behavior is getting a little out there, but not too bad. We understand that jealousy can, and see, some of us attribute that, oh, that person just likes me. But when it gets to the point where you're in fear, you're scared, constantly scared of having things taken from you, that becomes a threat. And then you become jealous of it. Right? Your relationship, significant others, close friends, making new friends. You're terrified of losing. Could even be those special people in your life that are going to change, or are even making new friends. You become a completely different person. Especially when it comes to competition, competing with people. Some people have goals, you have your goals. And you might feel it's a threat to you achieving your goal. So you feel, hey, no, and you become hurt. And you spend a lot of time obsessing over that person. So you need to figure out where the jealousy is coming from. Maybe you feel that you're not the perfect friend. Maybe you're scared. There's people that are close to you will see that and leave. Possibly you could be mad at yourself for not reaching goals, making you jealous when something good happens to somebody else that you know. You just got to shed those feelings. You got to get rid of them. You got to focus on yourself in a better light. And try not to be too judgmental of others. Yeah, too judgmental of others. There are people that are very harsh and judgmental. They're not afraid to tell people what they think. And just because people might ask you for your opinion, that doesn't mean you should be very judgmental. You should be given constructive criticism that can improve others rather than hurt others. And make sure your jokes aren't too hurtful. You're one of those individuals that's joking all the time, joking so much you don't realize how far it's gone. Sometimes you go a little bit too far with your jokes and you can learn from towards other people. Or you're using those jokes to cover up some comments that you want to get at somebody. You know if you're one of those persons that knows how to yield your humor. However, it can be very hurtful to others. Just keep it simple. Tell jokes that are actually positive, and real fun. Keep it simple and light. Well, today we've had some good talk about personality traits, and this is part of personality traits. And I want to say thank you to all of us. And I want you to spread the word about the lives of your and couple of personality traits. But I want to say thank you to all my listeners. Take care.